I do think like as owners are getting better at behavior modification in their dogs and learning the pre-mac principle, I think people are getting better at managing the high drive dogs. Like if you go back 20 years ago, those dogs were a handful, right? I mean, they strap on the e-collar and like these are like the early e-collars that were there was nothing really humane about those things, right? Like, it wasn't like a consistent or reliable stim or any of that stuff. And those dogs were just and they couldn't harness the drive, right? And I think we're getting better at taking a high drive dog and be like, wow, if I've got the drive, all I have to do is teach it like what it needs. I need to channel that drive. And boy, that's an easy dog to train. Like it really, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to train a high drive dog if you are like following that pre-mac
Yeah.
principle. And
And I think it's important to note that this isn't just like breed specific. This is
no,
dog to dog because, we've all seen the short hair or the draught that's just been suppressed and they don't want to go hunt. And it's just like they've been robbed to where, to your point, I think we are watching in real time people in the bird dog space specifically get better about understanding like, hey, for the first year, like we're just building drive. We're just going to let them bump and chase. We're not going to put all this stringent
yeah,
steadiness expectations or requirements on them. And I'm hearing it less often from people. When I first entered the space, you always heard about their age. Like they pass this test at just 18 months
yes,
or whatever.
yes,
You still hear it and see it from time to time on social media, but it is not nearly as prevalent as
yeah.
when I first entered the space. I don't know if I'm just not seeing it or
I don't
hearing
see
it.
that as much either.
It used to be a thing to where like,
Yeah,
you pass the
all the
utility test. Oh,
time.
well, how old are you?
Yes,
And now you just don't hear it. People are
yeah.
recognizing that. I think that the gun dog space got in that little rat race thing for us. Like, how fast can I put the title on the
Yeah, because
dogs?
it makes it a better dog,
Because it makes it a better dog. But I
right? They
think,
think.
to your point, those dogs slowly start disappearing from social media and they stop showing up on hunts, and people are putting two and two together like, oh, that rock star that passed the invitational at 18 months.
It's done. It's washed
It's
out.
it's done, and it's like the dog's 5 years old, and it hasn't gotten any better. Even the
Yeah,
skills that they learned, and to me, I think that's a lot of the results from just driving way too hard, way too fast,
yeah.
and I think we are watching people get better, and at least acknowledging that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. It has kind of like when social media came out, like we didn't know how to handle all that information,
Yeah.
and like, right?
It was
Like it was
everybody was
a
making competitions
look
out
at
of
that.
nothing.
Like, wow, it turns out I suck at dog training. I had no idea, but look what everybody else is doing,
Right?
right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you're trying to catch up, and
Mhm.
people are copying people, but they don't see the behind the scenes things. And
Yeah.
so for a short period of time, I trained dogs for clients, and that was before Cato Outdoors kind of became all consuming. And I distinctly remember one conversation with a client, and she had a younger dog. I think it was like 10 or 11 months old, and she'd come out like once a week and we do these sessions. And the one time she's like, Jordan, I feel like we're falling behind. Well, I had seen a video. It was within one of the spaniel groups. I had seen the video. I knew exactly where it was coming from. And she didn't say it.
You just
She's
knew.
just like, but I said like, "Oh, did you see that video?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I'm telling you, that dog will not be around for the long haul." And it wasn't. Like 4 months later, never
Burned
saw
out.
another video. Never saw They don't say like I burned that dog out. It just, it quietly goes away. It comes in real loud. Look how amazing it is. And then it just kind of it just
Then
leaves,
people
right?
just wanna hope that, like, "Oh, I hope you don't remember that I
Yeah,
posted that
yeah.
video."
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, don't like we're in it for the long haul. Like we
Yeah.
don't need to beat a dog at 12 months old or 11 months old. Like there's no, there in the trial game, like the saying is like there's no ribbons given out in training. Like we're not trying to win anything today. Like we're building for that down the road. And there's definitely like, there's not ribbons given out in hunting at all. And I mean that's your primary listener. And that's all I am now as a hunter. But I say all I am, but like that's what I do now is hunt. I don't trial anymore. But same with hunting. Like there aren't wild birds in training. They're like that's down the road. Like we don't need to get all crazy at 10 months old and like try to do the real thing. Like just take it easy, follow the process. Dog doesn't need to look amazing today, doesn't need to look amazing tomorrow. Like just
They just need
take that drive
an improvement somewhere.
just a little yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not always gonna be linear either, like, sometimes
Oh,
some
no, definitely not.
dogs are hormonal, and they get like, some days they don't feel good. I
Yeah.
mean, they do like, it's harder to see it with a dog because they're gonna hide it more, but, like, dogs aren't consistent. It's not a
Mhm.
computer, so it's not gonna be linear, like, start to finish. There's gonna be times you're like, "Man, what are we doing here?" I had that, like, so 2.5 years ago, we did that podcast on puppy development, and what spawned it was you had Quinn
Mhm.
and I had Shaney, and they were both comparable in age. They were within a
Yep.
few months, right? And I'm thinking Shaney probably was like 3 months old, and it was like, well, these are the things I'm gonna do with her, right? And she's a great dog. I mean, she most of the things I wanted to do with her, like she was doing those things, and everything was progressing well. And I was like, wow, she's gonna be like this is it. Like I finally found a Springer that's like this one's it. And she ran in a couple of puppy stakes, did well, and then she went through. I think it was her first heat cycle, and all of a sudden it was like, what just happened
The
to my?
wheels came
What
off.
just happened to my dog? Well, no, the wheels didn't. The wheels like stopped turning. It was like it just like she became kind of apathetic. It was like she became too attached to me almost, and like we went from a dog that just I had her in South Dakota last year, and it was just like, man, this is a monster. I mean, shot so many birds over her. And it's like, wow, this it's a year and a half old dog, and I've this is one of the best hunting dogs I've ever hunted behind already. And it's her first season, right? Goes through the heat cycle, and like all she wants to do is like plod around in the field and look at me, and very frustrating. And this went on for a couple of months, and we had to do some things to help her through that. Now, well, I would say kind of got her fixed or got her out of that funk mid-August maybe, and then third week of September, she ran in a 40 dog open stake and got a placement in it.
There you
So,
go.
but not to toot a horn or anything. There, more just to reiterate the point. Like these things aren't linear. Like that dog went from being like, wow, it's amazing to, oh my word, like this is probably going to be a better pet than anything. And then now back on track, and you say she's had a great fall. She's placed in 2 or 3 trials. So you take your puppy, it's not going to be like always perfect, and I think as a trainer you have to be able to take that and say like, okay, so why are we experiencing this? Like, could it be a health thing? Could it be a hormonal thing? Could it be it got hot out and this dog doesn't handle the heat as well? Could it be something changed in my environment? Like, who knows what? Like maybe maybe an
Yeah.
owl moved into the tree outside and the dog is focused on the owl and not on you. I mean, it can be any number of things. And